What's up, guys? It is RC Apologist here, and deciding to make a hangout live stream real quick, just making it something that will explain why I will apparently not be as active today on Twitter due to the fact that I woke up this morning with a notification saying that my account is limited, and for the next 3 hours, it will continue to be limited and restricted in what I am allowed to do. And the reason why is because, as I'm using for this title, that I was defending homosexuals. That's the reason Twitter reported me. What do I mean by this? How did I get reported? And Twitter decide that it was, quote, violating our rules against hateful conduct by defending homosexuals. Now, note, what does it mean by the hateful conduct breaking? According to their deal, it says, quote, you may not promote violence against, threaten, or harass other people on the basis of race, ethnicity, national origin, sexual orientation, gender identity, religious affiliation, age, disability, or serious disease. Now, note what the key terms here. I must promote violence against, or I must threaten, or I must harass people that are under these terms, whether they be of race, ethnicity, and all such. Now, what was the tweet that got reported? And apparently Twitter deems it as violating the hateful conduct rules. This was the tweet. Someone had posted something talking about someone who is homophobic, apparently, because of this. Here's what I said, quote, some guy is trending, apparently, for being homophobic because he finds it hilarious that they, referring to the LGBT community, welcome a community, referring to Muslims, that shoot up gay nightclubs. He was not laughing at gays dying, but that people, including LGBT, welcome Muslims as if Islam isn't a threat to them. So, and then, of course, I ended up sharing the thing that showed this person who was under the scrutiny. Now, I don't know who this person is right now, because really this person doesn't seem like he was famous and didn't have too much of an impact. So I don't even hear people talking about this guy anymore. So kind of strange that someone goes as far as to going back to old tweets to try to make something here. But of course, that's just how Twitter is. But anyways, so I did that as a result of saying, hey, y'all know there's the thing with Islam, and it is not something that the LGBT community should defend because of not just the attacks that has occurred, but the fact that these attacks are justifiable under the issues of what the Quran and the Hadith teach. I was not trying to... Now note, that's accordingly to this thing, I was supposedly either promoting violence against either Muslims or homosexuals, because either way, you could see that it could probably be applied to both here. I mean, depending on how social justice warriorish you get, that it's either I'm promoting violence against these people, I have threatened these people, or I have harassed these people. I have not harassed anybody. I have not threatened anybody. And I certainly did not promote violence against people. So in other words, Twitter is willing to violate their own rules of hateful conduct. And trust me, whenever this video, whenever the account does get the limits unrestricted, this is going on Twitter to let everyone know the hypocrisy that is going on with Twitter and the fact that they violated their own rules. So by that logic, Twitter, you are breaking your own rules. Some penalty should be done against you at that point if you are violating against the law. Now, it's just surprising that, I'm saying, defending a guy who's trying to defend, and find it interesting that homosexuals are basically trying to harm themselves when people should be, defending them in the case of saying, like, hey, you don't want to die? Well, we're trying to help defend you from the ideology of Islam, which does teach that if one is caught and is a homosexual, they are to be killed. Not in just the terms of back then, that's what happened to them during the time of Muhammad, but rather that this was also during the time of which it tells us to follow the Sunnah, the Hadith of Muhammad. And Muhammad, according to the Quran, is the best code of conduct, the window to reflect and display his behavior. And according to a hadith, which is found in Sunan Abu Dawud, which is in this one reference, book 40, hadith 112, it says, the Prophet said, if you find anyone doing as Lot's people did, if you look at most of these things, and well as the paragraphs they use, it's referring to, when they say Lot's people, they refer to homosexuals, according to the hadith in the Quran. So if you find anyone doing as Lot's people did, kill the one who does it and the one to whom it is done. So in other words, not only must you kill the homosexual, but also the partner in which he's doing the act with. And this is classified as a Hasan Sahih, so it is a very reliable and authentic hadith that scholars would agree that this is something that Muhammad did say, and it is agreed by the scholars to be that case. And so that's why the whole thing then goes to, also depending on the different jurisprudence in which the penalty is to be applied. If you are in the Hanafi jurisprudence, then the penalty is up to the ruler, which can include anything, including death. If you are in the Shafi jurisprudence, that's 100 lashes, or you are stoned to death. It's one of these two that is to be considered the penalty for being caught as someone who is a homosexual. Maliki, Hanbali, and Jafari, these three schools say that if you are caught being a homosexual in the modern time of Islam, in the modern society, under these jurisprudence, you find someone who does this, kill him. Now, of course, there's also a certain specific way on how to do it. And according to this one site that mentioned something concerning what Ibn Abbas said, and according to Ibn Abbas, he is one of the great tafsir commentaries of the Quran, but you don't have a tafsir of him necessarily unless you look in the hadith. But apparently, it is said that Ibn Abbas said that the punishment for a homosexual, based upon the Quran, should be to look for the highest point in the city, that he is to be tied up and thrown from the top before he is stoned on the ground. So there's also another hadith that I'm trying to remember that says the same thing, that mentions to go to the highest point into of a rooftop, and then you fling them off of a rooftop. But yeah, here's the actual hadith. The Prophet said, and I say this again so that way people can look it up for themselves. I don't have the exact number on me, but this can be found on the Islamic sources. Narrated Abdullah ibn Abbas, the Prophet said, if you find anyone doing as Lot's people did, kill the one who does it and the one to whom it is done. Abu Dawud said that a similar tradition has been transmitted by Sulaiman b. Balal from Amir b. Abu Amar, and Abad b. Mansur transmitted it from Ikrimah on the authority of Ibn Abbas, who transmitted it from the Prophet. It has been transmitted by Ibn Ashrash. So it goes on to the other issues. But you have the issue it's talking about kill the people who do the things as it mentions from the people of Lot. And so there are different varieties of how the punishment is gone. And of course, the popular way that it is done is due to how the jurisprudence defines it, as well as another narration in which Ibn Abbas determines how this one should be killed. So yeah, this is what I get for trying to stick my neck out and defend especially, and I guess because it's Pride Month, that you know they want to not be defended when I'm trying to say here is what Islam teaches, and the fact that you're condemning a guy that just finds it hilarious that there are some people, not everybody. I'm not saying all uh, homosexuals are like this. That they would have, that there are some who are willing to accept Islam and just simply allow it to be something seen for what it's not. And that is a religion of peace, and that is a religion that can be tolerant towards them when in full practice, in full consistency, and by the majority, it would not do so. And if you were under these certain jurisprudence, you would either face death, you would either face lashings, or being stoned to death. And I'm pretty sure that the LGBT community doesn't want this, but yet at the same time, there are some people that want this, and they're speaking out as if they represent the majority. But I know others that I have that are been probably come into contact with me, and the people that I have talked to about this, and they are shocked at the fact that something like this has happened, that Twitter is being this ridiculous. So, the tweet has been removed and deleted because otherwise I would not have been able to access the account. So, y'all have on record from this video why my Twitter has been reported and why it's under a certain limitation. So, that being said, this is what happens when we live in a society that does not care for humanity. But in one society that, while it may lack respect for its own people, we are willing to be out there to speak the truth for what it says and to preach the gospel so that those who ever believe in it will find salvation, because it is not based upon the orientation or the gender or any of these other things that limit people from the gospel, unlike apparently Twitter limiting what is allowed to be said. And that is that if you come to Christ, repent and put your faith and trust in Jesus Christ as the Messiah, you will be saved. It does not matter of where you have stood in your past. When you give your life to Christ, you not only start a new life, but you will feel that transformation, the renewal and the renewing of your mind. But in order for me to even just get that across these days, it seems that that's not even going to be a point anymore. And I think this is just why some people are just offended that when truth is spoken about, even if it's against what other religions believe, then, this happens. So I just won't speak as much about it on Twitter, since it's quite clear that Twitter is so far willing to compromise its rules and attack people, and even if it means having to break their own terms of service. So, that being said, this has been RC Apologist.